There are very few games I'm attached to, very few games that I come back to. Then there's the very few games that are committed to my memory. Today we're going to be talking about this one, Tomb Raider 2 on the PlayStation 1. So back in 1997, as a kid trading in my Sega Mega Drive, I got 3 games in return. 1, Marvel Superheroes, which is a great beat-em-up game. Oddworld, a really great platforming game which I would later revisit. And finally, Tomb Raider 2. This series became very near and dear to me due to the fact it was the game that made me get into platforming, blew my mind with how complex each and every single installment would be, and whatever challenges it would bring to the field each time I'd play it. It is also the very first game me and my dad sat down and properly played from start to finish. So there's a lot to cover about this game, starting with the developers. Core Design, in partnership with Eidos Interactive, put out Tomb Raider 1 back in 1996 for PlayStation 1 after a grueling 18 months to develop with a group of only 6 people. Toby Gard, who was among them, initially designed and created the character Lara Croft. Though the design of the characters, settings, even the direction, went through multiple changes, thanks to Core eventually settling upon the design we know to this day. Tomb Raider met with high praise and high scores, anywhere between 8.5 out of 10 to 10 out of 10, so a sequel was not out of the question. Tomb Raider 2 was already in its conceptual stages even before the first game's release, but development team had 2 key members leave just after the first game's release, one of them being Toby Gard. But the majority of the original development team had stayed on, hit with a deadline of less than a year to get the game done and ready to ship. To cope, the team was doubled in size and a lot of big decisions were made, such as to keep the engine that they were working on to produce the game, while the team took a new approach with the engine to tweak and improve rather than starting over again. With that approach, a lot was improved, such as dynamic lighting, improved character models, and level design. And because of the bigger team, they managed to make that deadline with no issues. This game was also met with positive scores again, 8.2 out of 10, even 10 out of 10s, whilst being able to give fans something new and even drawing new players in. Yes, on the PC there was expansions, fleshing out the game a wee bit more, but for the sake of this review, I'm going to be looking at the version I played when I was a kid, and that's this PS1 version. When booting up the game, you have multiple choices. You could either go to Croft Manor, starting a new game, or fiddling with the multiple options. Croft Manor is a tutorial level done well. As the game starts you are outside the manor, at the start of Lara's obstacle course, where upon the first few seconds of loading into the level, you get Lara's voice explaining it's been a year since the events of the last game, and that she's built a course to hone her old skills and show off a few new ones. This is the best way to allow the player to discover how to interact with Lara's moves, and it teaches you how to do certain platforming challenges, even letting the player think of how to approach certain jumps or how to proceed with them. With tutorials these days, there's always a pop-up box telling a player how to play the game, and sometimes these even persist through the game. Well, Tomb Raider doesn't. It sits you down and says get on with it, as you aren't even told how to utilize the moves, or any of the buttons. And sounding like a broken record, this way the obstacle course approaches teaching the players about how to play the game is genius. I guess the best way it can be summed up is by Egoraptor's Mega Man vs. Mega Man X.
Mega Man 1 and Gutsman stage, there are these platforms sliding along these little path lines. You jump on the first platform with no fear, whatever, and then you just kind of ride it out, and then fuck!
Who the fuck is that thing? Whoop. Mega Man, there's a hole in the zip line that you...
No, shut up, I don't need you!
However, Lara's movement is a bit tricky to get used to, for she's on tank controls. As you push forward, that's the direction she will run off in. Pushing left or right will turn her in that direction, or when she's stationary, she will rotate that way. Pushing back will have her hop back. These controls are brilliant, and I've said it before, I love them. Croc is on tank controls. You must rotate him with the left and right and press forward in order to go in that direction, but by pressing him backwards he does this little cute walk back. However, this is going to sound backwards, but I actually like these controls due to being so damn used to them from other games with tank controls. You know, Resident Evil, Tomb Raider, Bubsy 3D, I'm very intimate with these type of controls. But to compensate with the controls, Lara is able to walk. By holding the R1 button, she's able to walk up to ledges or step back slowly. This helps towards long jumping or needing to look around. And by pressing the R2 or L2, she's able to sidestep left or right depending upon the direction pressed. They also allowed Lara to have this barrel roll when pressing circle. This can help as it turns Lara 180 degrees, and it can help when needing to run away from enemies or traps. Lara is able to hold on to zip lines, ledges, or even interact with the buttons or levers by pressing the X button. This also can be experimented with her moveset by run, jump, and grabbing ledges. Or in most cases for me, it was run, jump, oops, and try to grab, followed by a loss of health or death. Her final thing she can do for movement is swim, by being able to swim in almost every direction, and it is easy to use once you're able to get used to it. Another thing you're able to do is a quick 180 roll to change the direction, as this adds to the exploration, or even more as a test of the player when they're getting through levels later on. And that's about it for Lara's movement and abilities. It now just comes down to the player to navigate and think around the levels. And after the Croft Manor level ends, your first level begins at the Great Wall of China. So the story of Tomb Raider 2 seems complex, but it's very straightforward once played through. To summarize, long ago, the dagger Xi'an was used by the Emperor of China to command his army, and by stabbing himself in the heart, he gained the power to become a dragon. However, in the battle that takes place in the opening cinematic, shows a warrior monk of Tibet removing the knife from the dragon, killing it, and then the dagger was placed in the Great Wall. Dart to present day, and Lara investigates the Great Wall, only to be attacked by a henchman sent by Marco Baratoli, a veteran mafia leader who wishes to obtain the dagger as he is obsessed by the legend. So Lara must chase down Marco and unravel the mystery of the dagger, whilst going to many locations, starting with Venice, an offshore rig, an underwater shipwreck, to even adventuring to Tibet. After finding out what Marco and his goons are up to in each location, Lara heads back to the Great Wall. However, Lara is too late and Marco has stabbed himself with the dagger. He is carried through a portal, with Lara giving chase, only to find Marco has become a dragon through the power of the dagger. She's quick in defeating the beast and retrieves the dagger. Lara then makes her quick escape as the catacombs are coming down. After returning to Croft Manor at night, the remainder of Marco's men have tracked her down, and now it's up to Lara to fend off the invasion of her home, only in her dressing gown. After doing so, Lara's adventure comes to an end, with Lara going to enter a shower and breaking the fourth wall.
Don't you think you've seen enough?
Now this game nails the location Lara travels to, pushing the hardware of the PS1 to max, as each level has quite a large area to traverse back and forth. Take the first level, the Great Wall. It starts you off with having to make jumps up the valley you start in, to having to run along the wall, to go inside, survive the several traps before you make a zip line to the end of the goal. This level can take anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes, depending upon familiarity and how well you cope against the tigers, birds, traps, challenges to get the collectibles, and dinosaurs. Yep, dinosaurs in the Great Wall of China. Just let that sink in. Now yes, this is a secret encounter, and it's more a callback to Tomb Raider 1 where you have to fight them, but by that point, Lara had a few more weapons at that point to deal with them. But the two weapons you have, if you don't cheat, are the pistols and shotgun. What you get once killing it and running to the end of the chasm? One of the 3 level collectibles. Now this is both good and bad thing in my eyes, where these are bloody annoying to get all 3 in each level. Some were easy and needed a little platforming, and others you need to defy death and logic to obtain these. But what do you get for collecting all of them? Absolutely nothing. No new weapon, cutscene, or level. You get diddly squat.
So you get nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
But in a screwed up positive, it gave you the satisfaction of saying, I got all of them. I dealt with some of the secret encounters or areas to get them. So it's more a question, do you just want to complete the game, or do you want to go for the full completion? Back onto the level design. With the limited hardware of the PS1, it made the limitations work for them, as the draw distance was used effectively in 2 levels, the second level in Venice and 40 fathoms under the sea. The darkness that was in the distance added to the level of fear and the theme that even made the mood change dependent upon where you were. There were levels that even felt claustrophobic, or that you felt like you're spelunking through ancient ruins. That's what you want to feel while playing this game, a sense of progression, and that each level draws you in and makes you feel like you're a part of the action. And back in the day when the polygon limitations were what they were compared to today's graphics, Tomb Raider 2 did well achieving what it set out to do. Now as you traverse these levels and experience the adventure, Lara will encounter a lot of enemies from time to time. Goons, dogs, even monks. So her arsenal needed to be expanded. As in Tomb Raider 1, she only had 4 weapon choices. This time she has an array to play with, from her starting weapons, the dual pistols, to Uzi, to harpoon gun. In total there are 7 unique weapons to play with some of these being very difficult to find and can be missed. However, one of them is brutal and can dispatch quickly, the grenade launcher. I've had so much fun on multiple plays with this gun, as one shot reduces an enemy to flying parts. I must explain and stress, doing the cheat to get all weapons early kills any surprise and enjoyment. Well, after the first couple of kills. Alongside a new expanded weaponry for Lara to obtain, there are vehicles to drive around the levels. Sadly, there are only 2, a boat and a snowmobile. Both of these handle okay. For vehicle segments for the PS1, whilst driving them, you can also help traverse the levels in Venice and Tibet with their inclusion. Now I'm going to touch on a serious moment about this video game for me. When I was young, I was obsessed by video games, as growing up dyspraxic, with a difficulty to interact and socialize. Because of that, I never played sports or even went outside much. As soon as I was up or home from school, I went on the consoles. After getting this game, it was one of the series my dad sat down with me and played through. He couldn't operate the game whilst I could. However, I couldn't read well at the time while he could read the guide that we obtained from a game magazine. So in a weird way, my dad became like a rally driver's navigator. Honestly, I have the best memories playing through the Tomb Raider series with him. There were plenty of times I would fire on whilst he was reading, mostly resulting in death, or luckily avoiding the thing that would have killed Lara. But all these are funny to me, as all of them had a comic timing to them. Honestly, I have to say, if it weren't for this game and my dad, I probably wouldn't enjoy games as much as I do today, or be as passionate. And I can only be grateful for that we spent those times together, and I would never trade any of it. Well, with the majority of this game talked about, there are a few things left I have to mention. First off is the amount of ways Lara can and will die. Being crushed by boulders or barrels, drowning, which is the most harrowing to watch, falling off high places, another one harrowing to watch as she screams, followed by the thud and a limp body, poison water, crushed by falling objects, shot, beaten by goons, spike walls crushing you, impaled on spikes, breaking your net by swan diving, another harrowing death with a thud and a limp body, vehicle blows up, tiger, shark, yeti, even dinosaur. Most of these can be combined, for example being shot whilst on the snowmobile. It's starting to feel like a parody song, 50 Ways to Kill Lara. Another thing I wanted to give mention is the in-game cutscenes. There aren't that many, but they are well animated enough to understand what's happening. Plus, the voice acting is better than some PS1 games.
Barry! Where's Barry?
Well, I'm sorry, but he's probably...
No. What is that?
I'll go and check.
Okay, Jill and I will stay in the hall in case of an emergency.
But once again, Core was trying to push this game to the edge to see what could be achieved. The music's okay. There were a lot of moments that the game just hopes the scenery and ambience will just do, and to some extent, it does. However, when the music does kick in, it's somewhat hit and miss. The best way for me to describe it would be to open up your library of music and hit random and flick through the tracks. That's how sporadic it was for me. There are some tracks I will use, for example, such as the main theme, as that gears you up for the mystery. While other tracks like Lara Plays in the Snow feels like a techno beat in a nightclub back in the 90s. Very out of place for this game. A lot of the tracks are ambient noise for levels, but even with certain tracks, Industry at Sea or The Dragon, it really can turn up the intense moments of escaping or fighting a big ass dragon. The last thing I will mention is about the game's box art. I love the PAL box art as it's just so pretty. It fits in with the mood of what the game wishes to portray. Using Lara in a pose of her iconic closed dual pistols with a burgundy red brown background with a Chinese dragon behind her really hits the mystery question of what's going on, what's happening that will include a dragon. And finally the text is all neat, one color of dark gold, saying Tomb Raider 2 starring Lara Croft. All presented neatly and doesn't impede on the design it's trying to present with Lara and the dragon, and honestly isn't an eyesore to look at. Now compared to the NTC version, Lara is centered and made the draw point. The title of the game has been changed to this ugly 90s blockbuster text with red abrasive text stating starring Lara Croft, with another abrasive different text Roman numeral 2. It's just an eyesore. Not much else is conveyed other than, it's Tomb Raider 2. And yes, Lara's in the same pose, but just mirrored. But honestly, when it comes to selling the game, PAL boxes of Tomb Raider just were better designed than their American NTC versions. To me, it was a huge difference in the selling point. That was how the game attracted players to entice them to play the game by the box cover. With everything Tomb Raider had done and set out to do, the bar was high for the next installment in the series, as a lot of the ideas and love bits were taken and worked on and made even better in the sequel. However, my love for that game isn't as strong as this one, but honestly, that's for another day. So throughout the years, I've always kept the version me and my dad played together, and looking back upon it today, faults and all, it's still a good game. It's dated, and yes, it's not the best looking game anymore, but the point is that it made an everlasting impression upon me back then, and is the reason I'll always remember this game. And I'll also remember it is the reason I came to love 3D platforming and gaming in general. So thank you very much for sticking around and watching this video. And I do hope you've enjoyed this, and this one was very personal for me to do. So I think it's time I put this aside for now and just go and have a nice relax. Thank you very much for watching again. I'll see you around for the next video. Thank you so much for watching this one. This is a very personal and very difficult video for me to do. I found it very hard to look at a game which I had so much love for, and why it was so difficult for me to take a shot at its negatives, because there are quite a few if you look at it now, but to me right now it's the game that I can't be biased in. I always look at it and kind of go, oh, I remember this part. I do hope that if you see it on Steam, or you have PlayStation 1, or you want to play some retro, you go give it a shot and look back at it for what it is and how it's inspired today's platformers, and even the genre or the series that it is still going to this day. So I do hope you take away something from this one. So I do hope you have enjoyed this. Yes, it's 2 icons, but that's very obvious why it's a big video, and it's the end of season 1. So I hope you have enjoyed. If you want to see anything else on this series, please go click on below, or if you like my 3-minute reviews, go check out them or other series, or go check the ones I'm talking about, like indie games such as Oddventure, Toasty, Crystal Story, all these other things that I'm getting into. I'm absolutely loving. There's 1 or 2 more on my Twitter which I'm meant to be following. Once again, follow my Twitter. I have Instagram now, so go check that out. I have Facebook. Just like, comment, subscribe, and enjoy it. And I will be back in a wee while for series 2. So I hope you have enjoyed. Thank you very much once again for watching from the bottom of my heart, because this is a very personal episode. And I'll catch you around.